Hey guys, welcome back to Garage Force Restos. In the last episode, we got a good start to this fender, but there's a lot more work to do. Let's dig in. Okay, first up is this little mark right here. You can see that there's just a bit of rust bubbling happening right here in this one spot. And that is again from the inner splash shield coming across here, and where this bend is, the rust forms as dirt, moisture collect there. So in the other fender, we had to put a whole patch in here. This one, I'm just going to drill a hole right through here. We'll get to clean metal, and I think we can just tack that up and grind it. That's the plan. Let's get after it. All right. First thing we're going to do is clean up that area. There, but you can see when I drilled that first hole, it punched straight through like it was butter or paper. I've got another large size that's got nearly a 3/8 hole there now. I think we're now into good solid metal, so I think we can just tack that up. At least that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to back the heat off in the welder. We're going to go to the lowest setting, turn up the wire feed a little bit, and let's see if we can stack some welds on this filler up. Let's get to it. Okay, a lot of weld bit up there. Clearly more than I need, but now I'm going to flip the fender over and we'll turn the heat setting up and we'll just work around here and we'll get this good and strong in the back and built up with weld, and then we'll come back over this side and we'll grind this off. Okay, you can see I've got good penetration already here. I'm just going to go around a couple areas with a little hotter heat setting and just work around the outside of this. We'll grind some of this off, but not all of it. We'll leave some strength there. On the other side, of course, it'll be ground flush. There, that's what I'm looking for now. So I've got a good radius built up around that weak area. I'm going to grind that smooth but leave a head on there, probably a 1/16 of an inch head on there, so there will be a bit of buildup left to keep some strength in there, but still allow the inner splash shield to sit flush properly against the fender, and then we'll grind the other side off. Okay, there we go. It's all ground smooth there. It'll need just a light skim of body filler. In fact, the high build primer will probably give me what I need just to um, make that smooth and beautiful, but it's perfect for metal. Now, let's move on to the next piece. Well, guys, we are into it on this one. As you can see here, we've got cancer right here along the edge. This is the backside here is where that bracket is, so that's where moisture and dirt collected. Rusted that out. Of course, the same thing happened here. I've got a small hole here, which by the looks of it and the backside, I could just weld up, so that's an option. But then it carries on here. That's not weldable. The backside of this is too scaly. It's just going to blow through and create a big mess. Got a hole here, and out here on the other side is just starting to get a little scaly in the backside here. So essentially, this piece here is toast, really. And if I bring it to the backside, you can see just how scaly. So good metal, a little sketchy, and then it's just brutal all the way through, and probably the same on the backside of this bracket here. So this really all needs to get replaced. The lip is fine, but I mean, if I'm replacing this, I might as well bend a new lip on there, because otherwise I'm welding that whole length and grinding the whole thing. That's just a lot of extra work. This is more than I thought I was in for on this area of the fender, and so if you just think back to what we've done, we've put a new dog leg on, we've repaired this, filled up the hole for the aerial, we'll have this repair, we're going to have this repair, and that dent on the other side. I'm going to have several hours into this fender. You might be wondering, what about just buying a new fender? Well, yeah, it's an option. Two things. One, it's expensive. To get it here, roughly $1,200. And you may or may not know, the fit is just never quite the same with a reproduction fender. Even the AMD fenders, don't get me wrong, it would be great, but there would be some fitment to deal with. So it's mainly a cost thing. I can do this with my time and a little bit of material, and of course know that I've got the original fender and the satisfaction of me doing the work. Yeah, that argument is starting to fade, given now what I'm into here and knowing what I'm into going to be down there. But we're into it now. I'm not going to back out of this. We're going to finish it off. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to start to make a piece, 18 gauge. I'm going to get a piece that's probably 4 inches, maybe 5 inches in width. Looks like 10, 11 inches in length. And I'm going to start by doing a 90-degree bend. I know that that's an exact 90, and it's got no deviation on it, no bend. So a 5-inch piece to 10, 11 inches, well, let's see here. Yeah, 10 inches long, and maybe we'll go 11. 11 inches long, 90-degree bend. That would be the most simplistic part of this piece. This is where it gets complicated, but here's what I'm thinking. When I've got that piece bent, the 5-inch by 11, 90-degree bend, of course it's going to come up and shoot straight up here. What I would do, I think, is measure this distance here up and cut that a distance to about here. And then I would push this new metal down and weld up from the backside a new piece here to close in that, which would then give me the step back that I need to mimic this piece. And then finally, I would do a 90-degree bend to create this lip. I'd leave extra, like you know how I do, and then I'd come along here and cut and trim and grind that flat nice later. So I think that's going to be our best bet. I mean, just putting in a patch here, yeah, could do that, but then I got to deal with this and that. We know the backside of this is just awful. I mean, some people would just media blast, maybe not even media blast. They'd probably just fill these holes and move on. I just can't do that. We've got to do a better job than that. So that's what I'm in for. I'm going to start by making that piece. Of course, one of the last steps I'll do is I'll make a template so I know where these holes are going to be, and we'll cut those out. But I'm going to start. I'm not going to cut anything out of this right now. What I'm going to start with is by making this new piece. See how close I can get it. If I'm happy, then I'll start to cut out and finish it off and get that new piece to fit. But I want to just test to see if I can recreate this look with a new piece. Let's get started. Okay, so I've got a piece of 18 gauge 6 by 12, and I marked and put a bend in there at 2.5 inches. So the one thing I did have to do is I've got a little bit more than a 90-degree bend on there because I realized that this bend here is slightly more than that. And I think they do that because when these are bolted down, they want that to come tight and put pressure on the fender. So I've done the same on here. So then this matches up nicely with the bend that's in here. You can see there. And on this side there, the bottom side there. The next thing I've done is gone ahead and marked where I'm going to need that lip here. Realizing that I have to put that lip on now because once I cut this spot here and bend this section down to create that effect, it'll be next to impossible to bend this because it's going to be already bent. So let's get that done now. So that's, you can see, if I just line that up again, that's where that line is. And so if I put a bend in there, I'll create this flange. Of course, it's going to be much longer than I want. I will do some trim on that just so it's easier to work with later. But I won't do a finished cut until this is all welded in. But as I think about this, I don't want to jinx myself, but I think we got something here. I think once I create that bend and then put a cut in the right spot here, a relief cut here on this bend that will be in there, and push this back to match this, and then weld it up with a new piece behind that goes this way. With a bit of grinding, I think we might be able to create that piece without too much hassle. I probably just jinxed myself. Okay, let's do that bend and go from there. Okay, got that bend in there. You can see that that fits real nice. So next thing I'll do, I think, is just take a bit off this, probably take an inch off. Leave still plenty to get this just the way I want it to match up, because you can see how this is actually a little wider, probably 1/8 of an inch wider than that. So I want to maintain that look. We'll take an inch off. I want that off so I can deal with the rest of this piece a little easier, because once that's cut, once this is cut here, then we're going to decide how far up we're going to cut this, and then all the way back to probably here or so, roughly. With that slit in there, we're going to need to make a relief cut up here so that this piece can bend down. And then we'll tack that once we get the right angle. And then that will give us this space here that we'll put a new piece in behind and weld it up. So actually, and I think we're going to be okay on this. It would have been easier to do all this with 20 gauge, but 18 gauge does give you more metal to play with later on. So just a little harder to bend up like this. Takes a little bit more work, but it's going to be a good piece. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to cut an inch off here, and I'll pick you up. Okay, there we are. That's all trimmed off here, and I've got the mark here where I need to cut just that way. That alone, with the relief cut up here, will allow me to bend this down to match this. So I'm going to double check everything, and then I'm going to make this cut. Okay, the plan is coming together here. You can see I've got a relief cut in here, and I made the slice up here, and I've pushed this back, and now it matches up. So I've got a good fitment over on this side, and I've got good fitment over on this side. And you can see that the height of this bend is nearly perfect. Just a slight trim, and that's the depth of the bend that we want. And so what I'll do now is I'll tack this. Once I know that I've got this, I'll put a vice grip on this edge here, so I know that it's matching the contour of the skin. Once that's secured, I'll put a tack up here, and that will hold that in place well enough, I think, for me then to take this off and then prepare a piece that will go inside of this, and then that'll all get welded up and ground down. Okay, it's coming together. Okay, we've got our piece. I did end up welding that relief cut solid, so we're good there now. And I also put just a keeper down here just to keep that tacked and in the right spot exactly. And what you can see now is fits perfectly down there. It's got the edge that I need here and over here. So really happy with that. I think this is going to work out really nice. So next up is we're going to do this. I'm going to take a piece of steel once it's cleaned up, and we're going to do this. I'm going to weld that in there, and that's going to give us the edge and the contour that we need. Follow that up with a little bit of grinding, and that piece, apart from the holes that we have to make for the bolts that go into the fender, I think it's going to work out great. So I'll pick you back up once this is all welded in and ground off. Okay, got it all welded up and ground down. There's the back of that piece. I'm not going to bother grinding in the back side of that, but the front side, it's beautiful. It's got the exact same step that the other one had. I took this off too, so we're on the right line here. I've left on this. We'll take that. That'll be one of the last things we do is trim that, and then we'll trim this area here once we get this piece cut out and we know exactly how far to cut that one off. That's actually turned out pretty good. I think if I were to redo the driver's side, I think I would do this again because I've got a nice strong piece there. It's symmetrical and it matches. Really happy with that. Okay, so now it's time to get this cut out. Let's get busy with that. Okay, I've got updates. So I got that cut out. Here's the piece, and you can see just how necessary it was to get rid of this piece. Cancerous. Okay, so that's gone. When I got it off, there's quite a bit of scale back here, so I actually took the fender outside and did a quick sandblast on that. So I got in and around just this whole area here so that I know I'm good. And I wanted to get back in this crack here because when this fender is media blasted, they'll have a hard time getting back in there. So got that done. And then the other thing I did off camera, I think I just got ahead of myself there, is I went ahead and I cut off this old bracket that was pretty rusted. And you can see there, welded in a new piece, a couple plug welds, a couple tacks, and this is now there in place, ready to go for the inner splash shield. And then on the new piece, I've got the fender slot there, hole for the belt there, same here, and this fits in there. Very, very happy. Of course, I've got to trim all along here, so that'll sit down and flush inside the fender, and then of course here later I'll trim off that. But otherwise, that piece is rocking. Very happy with how that's come out. A couple plug holes here for welds there eventually. So we've got to do some weld through primer on both sides of where this is going to be sandwiched, and then we've got to get this piece cut so I can get it to sit down there properly. So I think I'll start with that. I'll get this trimmed, and then I'll weld through primer, and then we'll get ready to start tacking this in. All right, rock and roll. I've got this cut to fit, and it fits just nicely. This line here, this line up top, just all of this back in here fits nice. Backside, just really happy. So I'm going to start working my tacks through this piece. You can see that right here I've got a bit of a gap, and this has to be drawn in. If you watch my fingers, I can get that zoomed in right. That's got to be pulled in. So it's just when I cut that other piece out, this had a tendency to bow out a little bit. So I know that this needs to be straight because I checked that before with the long ruler. So I know that I've got to pull this in because right now it's not straight. But when it's pulled in and I tack it, I know I've got the straight line I need to match the top of the hood, of course, right? So we're good. I'm going to get this tacked, and I'll pick you up when we've got that set up. Okay, there she is, all welded in and ground down flush. Everything went together really nice. No warpage. Everything, it's really solid. No pinholes in through the back. I did a weld in the back as well to get strength. There she is. Really happy with how that's turned out. Okay, this is the next area we got to get after. You can see, pretty interesting piece here. Shouldn't be too hard. I think we can knock this one out, but pretty bad cancer. Worse than the driver's side for sure. On the back side, you can see similar here. It's caused by debris sitting in between that piece there and the outer skin, together with the undercoating that was just keeping the debris and moisture in there. Okay, so I've marked out what I think we need to cut. So that's the black line. I'm going to go ahead first, though, before we do anything more than what I've done here, is make a piece. We want to use the contour of this and make an exact piece that will fit flush over this. You can see we're going to have to do a little bit of shrinking or stretching, depending on which way we're looking at it, to make sure that we've got the contour we need here. And the best way to do that is to get this piece of straight steel cut out. We'll put a 90-degree bend in it. We'll have extra material, and we'll start the process of making sure that it fits flush. So that's one bend that we've got to take care of here. And then thankfully it's straight down the line there. And then over here as well, very subtle curvature in this piece through here. So I don't think we'll have to do too much there, but a little bit, just because it's got a little very slight roll to it here. It's more pronounced here for sure on this side, but thankfully we don't need to get that far. So the main item that we got to address here is this curve, and we got to make sure that we get this shape right. And I saved the piece somewhere over here. When I did the driver's side, that's the template I used that would go over here. So this is what we want to replicate. If we're going to keep the two sides the same, we've got to make sure that we've got this bend, because this piece is entirely coming out, and when this gets in there, I want this side to look just like the driver's side. So we'll do a bit more measuring, but we've got this template that we can use to help us as a guide. So that's there. I'm going to go ahead and measure up a piece here. It looks like we're going to need probably 9 inches or so there, and probably 2 here and 2 there. And we'll start to trim and bend and get it to fit. Once I've got that piece to fit, then we're going to go ahead and cut all of this out. This part over here in the top of the fender, we'll use the cut and butt method to get that out. Let's get after it. Okay, got a piece here. It's roughly 9.5 by 3.5. Was in the scrap pile. Just needed to trim it up a little bit. So we're good to go. 18 gauge, of course, and that's what we're looking for. That sort of fit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge here and I'm going to line it up with where I'd like it to end here. I didn't mention it, but there's a spot weld right here and a spot weld here. I'm cutting in between them. That's going to make this process easier. So I want that right about there. And what I'm going to do for now is draw on the back side of this the shape of that bend. You can see there that I've got a definite slope down here. So that's where we're going to do our shrinking or stretching depending on the approach we're going to take. But for now, this is just going to be a straight line that we're going to bend along, and then we'll bring it to fit with the shrinker stretcher. So I'm going to draw a straight line from this point because that's the farthest point out, and then I'll meet you over there at the break and we'll bend this up. Okay, we've got our piece and I've got a straight line there on top. You can see then now pretty clearly the type of shrinker stretch we're going to put on that. But we're going to stick to a bend along that straight line and get that part done. This edge here needs to be really sharp, so we've got to make sure that we do a good job hammering this down. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, that's very close. We'll do a quick test fit and see how things are shaping up. Okay, this is our piece. This is the way we had it, like this. Well, that's not right. Oh yeah, that's right. That's, of course. See, there I go. I thought I made a mistake, but that's just, you can see now the gap that we've got to bring together with the bend. Back here, it's very close. I think that this does need to get bent back this way a little bit further in. I think though that some of that's going to come by way of the shrink and stretch. So I'm going to do a check on that. I want to see how far down I am. We know that this is up and forward. I just want to mark that line there. So that's how far we've got. We don't need to go that far. So I'm already going to help with the shrink and stretch process, I'm going to take some material off this edge here. Okay, I've taken about 3/4 of an inch off this bottom here. And now, with this lined up, it's the length I need here, which is good. I have extra on this side, which may come in handy because I haven't yet fully decided if I want to replace this section here. I think it's fine when I look at it, but I won't know for sure until I get this cut out. So, okay, so here's what I know. We know that most of the bend is happening here. And we also know that we can see now the gap that I've got to fill up right there. When I start to shrink this right here to create that, it's going to cause some bind up here because this is going to start to fall over. So I'm going to have to do some trimming on this piece. Probably, well, at least this distance here, right? So something like that. And I can't go back any farther than, I would say, here, because I'll start to get into that. Yeah, so I've got to cut this shape off this piece right here. Then I can do what I need to do to shrink. So I'll do that and come back. Okay, it's time to shrink. You'll notice that I've got this piece all cleaned up. I've also scraped it with the grinder. That creates a surface that will better bite with the shrinker stretcher. And so that's a little tip for you. If you're working with these tools, if you scratch this metal up, it will make this process go a little faster. So this is the top side of the piece, and we want the curve to come in this way. So we're going to start by shrinking over here. We know we've got quite a bit of shrinking over here and just a little bit over here. So we're going to start here and work our way through the piece. Okay, you can see that already that's done quite a bit. We're getting pretty close here, so I'm going to do test fit and see how she goes. Okay, here's our piece. Got our line. Yeah, she's, wow. That's pretty good. I think that might be actually what we need. It looks great. Yeah, I don't think I would change anything. We got lucky on that one. I'd say that. Okay, so we've got a piece that fits nice here. It's longer on this end than we need, but that's okay. Again, because I want to get this cut out first, and then we'll decide if we're going to go as far as this square or rectangular hole here for the hood bump. But for now, yeah, I don't think we need to do anything more. I think that's our piece. Okay, sweet. So now it's time. I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out, and we'll come back. Okay, I've got that all cleaned up for the most part. I got a little bit more to do there, but that piece is off. And this bracket behind that is basically this piece here that comes in. It's fine. Of course, it's weakened a little because of the rust that was occurring between it and the skin, but it's still, because it's a heavier gauge, 16 gauge, there's still plenty of material there and strength. So we're good there. And I think this now, again, it fits great. I think I've decided that I will go ahead and replace this section here. It doesn't really need it, but I'm already in here. This piece is long enough to do the work, do the job. I mean, I just draw a line there. It's going to get me right to good metal, so why not? It'll just take out all of the scaly part of that. Again, with a Media Blast, epoxy primer, and high build coat, and a bit of sanding, no one's ever going to know that that's there. It'll be completely concealed, but I'm already here, so let's just do it. We've got our piece, and so what came to mind is I can't do a cut and butt in the same way that I would normally do here because of the way this piece fits in. This piece needs to go in about 1/8 of an inch because, of course, it's right now over top. And so if I were to tack this and do a cut and butt here, I'm going to be too far out. So I've got to trace the side of this and cut to fit. And I'm going to have to trim up here because this piece is going to slide in about 1/8 of an inch, the width of the steel, right? So I'm going to make a trace here. And this is going to be the line that we're going to cut out. Of course, I'm going to cut on the inside of this black line so that I have a little extra material there. I don't want to have too much gap in here, even though I've got some complex bends. Warping shouldn't be too bad, but again, you always want to try to avoid that. So there's my line. I'm going to have to cut this out here, and I will have to trim off 1/8 of an inch on this edge here because otherwise I'm not going to be able to slide it in. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to trim just a sliver off this edge here. And then we'll be ready to test our fit and get ready to tack. So let's do that. Okay, so I think we've got this to a pretty close place. So what I'm watching for right now is, am I flush here? Am I good this way? Can I maneuver the piece so that I'm flush and flush and flush and flush? It's got a little wow in it, and you can see that this is lifted up right now, and it's not matching up. I'm okay with that for now because once I get this tacked here and a tack here and a tack here, I can start to use the hammer and dolly to create the curvature that I need here on this piece. So what I want to make sure of is that I've got flat surfaces here, and I've got the arc that I want, which I do. So there are two things left with this piece before we can start to tack it in. One, we need to create the shape. If you remember, we need to create that shape there, more or less. We got to work on how that's going to be positioned, but we got to create that, and we'll cut that out of this piece so that everything flows and matches. And the other thing that we have to do is we've got to get this marked out on the back side, and we can do that right now. I'm just going to put this piece back in. I think it went this way. Yeah, that's going to give me the rough position. And I'm just going to trace that. A couple drill holes, and then the body saw. We'll get that cut out in the shape that I need. So we'll go and do that, and I'm also going to open up the hood, take a look at the other side, and make sure I've got this in the right place. So I'll be right back. Okay, we've got our piece here. I've got this arched just like the other side now. I cut a hole in here. I'm not happy with this hole whatsoever, so I'm going to have to deal with that later. However, that's what I'll do. I'll deal with that later. Right now I've got this piece now lining up. You can see how the curve follows nicely. It will match the other side, and I've got my flush and my edge on the fender. So I'm pretty happy with this. So I think what I'm going to do is finish cleaning up this, bring in the wire wheel a bit, and then I'm going to weld through primer, and I'll meet you back, and we'll start to tack this in and get it all to fit along the bottom here, get it all tacked, and then we'll weld her up. Okay, so I'll meet you back after I've wire wheeled and let the weld through primer dry off. Okay, so we've got our piece. Plug welds are in, or plug weld holes are in. Weld through primer, weld through primer. It's time to get this piece tacked in. I want to tack it back here, and I want to line up the edge of the fender. That's the most important starting place. I want this flush. I want that flush. Now, with that lined up, I think it looks good. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Now, we've got to line up this here. Again, I want it flush, but most importantly, I want the edge, the top of the fender ridge, if you will, to line up perfectly. I think that's it. Okay, I think that's it. Now I just want to take a minute and make sure that I've got this where it needs to be. I'm not worried about this. We'll get to that. But right now I want to make sure that I've got the edge of that fender take our time and do this right. See, I'm a little low right here actually. So I think I'm going to have to cut this off and bring that up. You might not be able to see it in the camera, but when I'm looking down at the edge of the line of the fender, I'm good right here. I'm a little low here. So I'm going to fix that. Now's the time. Okay, we're tight on that one. Now, let me get it. That's it. Tack her up. Yep, that'll do it. Okay, that was easy, right? No. All right, let's get that tacked in there. Okay. Let's get this. I think is already flush. Let's do a tack there. Let's strengthen that one up a little bit. Okay, so I think now I'm going to put a tack back here so we don't have any of that action going on. When we start to work this side here, we're still flat. That looks good. There. Okay. So, better get one in here because this is going to have a tendency to lift up on me. So we're going to make sure that this is compressed all the way, and it's currently not. Okay. Liking that. So now we got to start to hammer and dolly this in. There we go. That's getting the shape we need now. Much better. It's a little bit more right there. Oh yeah, that's what you want. Okay, so we'll get a couple tacks in here to line her up nice. And we got to be careful with our heat here because you can't see it, but there is a little gap there, a little more than I would normally like. So we got to be careful, just so we don't want to warp this piece. Okay, glove. Anyhow, I've got this now tacked. We're good and flush on all the edges. I'm happy with how that's really fitting. So now it's time to take my time and weld this all up. I'll do that off camera because I know how mind-numbing that can be. So I'll go ahead and get that done. I'll get it ground off and I'll pick you up then. Okay, all welded up and ground down. Really happy with how that's come out. All that rust is gone and it's good and solid. No pinholes. It's welded up. Of course, you can see solid there. Also welded it on the back side, so it's good. Media blast, epoxy prime, light filler. In fact, even high build will probably do what I need to do to cover up what imperfections are in the metal there. Very happy with that. Okay, so I believe the only thing left on this fender is that dent we've got to try and pull out. It's going to be difficult. What we're going to do is put this fender on the car, get it bolted on in a couple of places so that we can use a slide hammer and some heat, and we're going to try and pull that thing out. Do what we can, because that's the last repair on this fender. It's been a challenge for sure. A lot of different places needed work, but we're one step away. Well, I guess I can see I got to weld a new wiring clip on here. So, okay, 1.5 steps away from finishing this fender up. Okay, so we'll get this bolted on in the car and we'll pick you up when I'm ready to pull that wonderful piece of there. Okay, I've got the fender mounted and I've got the area around the dent all taken down to bare metal, just with some 80 grit. As you saw there, I've got the slide hammer, just a basic one that I hope I'll be able to use. The idea is very simple and primitive. I'm going to be welding a number of these into the places where I think it needs to get pulled out. And then you can see here that this is how I'll secure onto those. So I'm just going to weld these on. I don't have, of course, a fancy dent puller, stud welder gun thingy. So we're going to do this the old, well, we're going to do this my way. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to weld some of these on through here, probably one around there too. I got a bunch. We'll weld them on and we'll start to pull this and see how things go. I haven't done one this bad before, so let's see how it goes. Okay, we got a few of those welded on there where I think we're going to need to pull. I'm going to do a little bit of heat action on here. I don't like it. I just don't like it. You know, not being able to get in from the back because it's got a double wall there and there's a bracket that comes down the length here. There's no way to get in behind here to do any kind of body work or metal work, you know, hammer and dolly. So I just don't like it. Yes, I could weld up these holes, grind it down, and put filler on it. Yes, that's what some people would do. I just don't think I want to do that. If I look at the other side, this is what I need to get it to. It's not, I don't think, a complex piece. If I could get a piece that's, you know, kind of like that shape with one bend down the middle and then just do a cut and butt over here, I think I'd be a lot happier. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and make a piece that's roughly that size, and I'm going to put a bend in it, and we're going to see if we want to go for replacing this section here instead of trying to continue to work this because I don't like it. Okay, I'm going to try and make that piece. Okay, new plan. We're going to cut that piece out. I went ahead and made up this piece. Let me show you what's going on. So it's got a bend down the middle, which will form the body line of the car. It's roughly in the right place. So it's got a bend down that way. And it also has a bend through the shrinker this way as well. And so I'll show you on the other side here. I can't really show you on that side of the car because the metal is just not happy. But that's what we're looking for right here. See how that's snugging up nicely over there, and it's snugging up over here too. And so why I did that is because if you look down at this fender, it has this bend in it like that. And so the only way I could do that was with the shrinker. And now I've got that right contour in here that matches this side of the fender, which I know is still good. So with that as my guide, I've got this piece that now we can do, probably I'll do a cut and butt on this. Line up the body line, most importantly, and then we'll do a cut and butt, tack it in, and yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be much happier with the outcome of that. It'll still need a little bit of body work, of course, but it won't look like that. So I'm gonna get set up. We're gonna get this tacked and ready for a cut and butt. Okay, I've decided we're gonna go for it. First thing I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna cut a section out of this, and that's gonna give me access to do a little bit of dolly work in a few of these areas that I think still need it from the dent. Here, here, maybe here. And then the cut and butt will take out the rest of that piece. So that's the plan. Okay, cut and butt complete. I'm actually really happy with this. I think that's going to be way better. It seems to have the right contour, the shape, flows really nice, up, down, left to right. We get that welded in and ground down. I think we're going to be really happy with that. So I'm going to just pull out the back piece from the cut and butt, and then I'm going to take a little break. We'll pick you up when I've got this welded up and ground down. Okay, she's all welded up, ground down. Check for pinholes. So what I do for that is I just put a bright light on the back side of the panel, turn the lights off in the shop, and just look for any pinholes that are, well, any light that's shining through the welds there. I've got those all taken care of, so it's a good solid weld. I will still run a bead on the back, but for now I haven't done that yet. Of course, I can't get to the whole back. I can only get to about this area here. The rest I can't do anything with, so that's why it was really important to check for pinholes up here. So we're all good. The body line, as you can see, is lined up. The crease here, so I think we're good there. Little tricky here because I can't do a hammer and dolly from the other side, so it's not as flat as I would like. It's going to require some filler, but not much, like a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 tops, just to take care of some of these low-lying areas here that I can't get with a dolly and a hammer. So that's it. I'm much happier with this than what was happening with the dent puller and what that was going to look like. So this, I know, is solid, and it's going to require minimal filler. So there we go. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got the rust taken care of on both of these front fenders, the one large dent taken care of on the passenger side, and apart from a few small details, these fenders are good to go. I do have to finish up the 2 rectangular slots that hold the hood alignment rubbers on the top of this fender. If you have any tips or tricks on how to get that to look factory correct, the right size and shape and so on, throw it down in the comments. I've got to do a bit of research on that, make sure that when I come back to finish up this fender, I do those in the right way. You might be wondering about gapping, whether it's to the door or the top. Gapping of the car is one of the last steps we'll do before bodywork, so we're not going to get too worried about that right now. Come back next week. We're going to get going on those inner splash shields and maybe some other details around the front of the car here. Until then, cheers.